If you don't have your master's, you're like screwed.
What's different about industrial design compared to architecture?
It was just boring.
How many years did you try architecture before you gave up?
I had this dream that if I'm going to become an architect one day, I'm going to make a lot of money. That's not really how it works.
Work at McDonald's and get paid more.
I would be just in general happy to have a job.
2 circles and a long piece just looks like a very obvious male anatomy. Is there a lot of jobs in Poland?
No. Hi, my name is Gabriela. I'm a senior at Academy of Fine Arts in Krakow, and this is my Portfolio Pinup.
And you said you were in your senior year, correct?
Yeah, like 3rd year. I'm on the 3rd year. So not really.
Third. Okay, so you would technically be a junior then?
Yes.
So it's out of 4 years?
So we have like 5 years. So now I'm studying for 3 years. I'm going to graduate and have my bachelor degree, and then I once again need to go through exam process in order to study for another 2 years.
What are you going to be learning those next 2 years?
Even more 3D and photography, and just maybe presentation of the product, because now so on the 1st year it was more of 2D. Then the 2nd and 3rd year we would like start learning the 3D programs. We had like a choice. We had to make a choice if we want to go into 2D path or into 3D path.
Is that a common thing in Poland to get a master's in ID?
Yeah, I feel like in general in Europe, if you don't have your master's, you're like screwed a little bit.
A lot of the Taiwanese designers that I know and worked with, they also have their master's in ID. And I thought that was kind of interesting because in America, master's in ID is actually pretty rare. There's not a lot of designers here that do have their master's. If they do, they typically want to go pursue being a professor or teaching because it's required to have your master's degree. But typically, if you just want to design, work at a company, all you need is your 4 years bachelor's degree. And so, do you plan on staying in Poland after you graduate?
My boyfriend is from Australia, and right now he is working in Copenhagen. And we're planning to like get married and potentially move to Australia. That's like a plan A. But I never like considered staying in Poland.
In Poland, is there a lot of jobs in Poland?
I'm about to apply to get my internships at the companies, and I heard that there is like a company crisis because of the world situation, the economics. And a lot of companies are just, I don't know how to say this, they're just like bankruptcy, and like they're just like losing, like the companies are like stop existing. And so I heard that it's hard to find internships right now. And, you need to have a lot of luck. Well, I have plan B. I'm outside of the uni. I'm learning how to become a jeweler. So it's, it's like plan B, just in case.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like you said you were potentially going to move, or it seems like you will move to Australia. Do you know how the industrial design career is out there?
No, I don't know. Sorry. But I feel like it's because it's like a new country, like Australia, it's not that old. So maybe there's a lot of like new, fresh companies.
So your plan is to just move out there with your industrial design degree and see what you can find. And if not, then maybe potentially just being a jeweler. Tell me, how did you find industrial design? Because I know that it's not a very common career.
My friend, he used to study this industrial design. He was like telling me a lot of like positive stuff about it. I was like, okay, this sounds really cool. And also at that time I was studying interior design and I wasn't really into it. So I just decided to give it a go.
So you heard about it from your friend and he was pitching about industrial design, telling how awesome it was. And it sounds like you're a creative person, right? You're also, doing jewelry on the side. You probably make things with your hands. Tell me about before you entered into industrial design. Were you a creative person, artistic?
Yes, I was actually preparing for like 4 years to go to the architecture school, and I was learning the perspective and all this stuff. But then something like changed, and I decided to go more into interior design. But then I got into that university, and I wasn't really quite happy with how it all looked. So yeah, I can say that I was pretty much creative. I was always like doing something, painting and drawing and all of.
What's different about industrial design compared to architecture, and why didn't you like architecture?
They don't expect you to do a lot of research compared to industrial design. They, like, for example, at my previous university, they wanted us to have a lot of sketches at first and then to do like a small research. But here the uni at Krakow, they focus mostly on research, and then you need to do sketches and then 3D modeling. I feel like most, like 80% of what we need to do at the uni now is research. Architecture, it was just boring. I'm sorry. It was just boring.
How many years did you try architecture before you gave up?
So I never actually tried architecture. I tried the interior design because for 4 years I was attending this private school where they would like teach you the perspective, how to draw, and also they would teach me the history of art. But during that time, I just realized that it's not really what I want, and I talked to architects. They told me that it's hard to have your own company in Poland. That if you don't have connections, you just basically need to work for somebody, and for a little money. And also, I feel like I had this dream that if I'm going to become an architect one day, I'm going to make a lot of money. That's not really how it works. You know.
When you switched to industrial design and started to learn more about it, was that closer to what you were looking for as far as just satisfying your creativity?
Yes, it's much more fun, and you're just doing like different. You're working on like different projects. You want one time you're designing, I don't know, a mouse or some like computer mouse, and then you can do like chair, and then I don't know, drone or some shit like this. I'm sorry.
I mean, I know what you mean. So when I first started, I wanted to be a car designer, and eventually I learned, it's going to cost a lot of money to get my education, because the only schools that really offer car design education is a private school, and they're very expensive. And then eventually I pivoted, found industrial design, found that this was a career similar to car design, but you could design almost every other thing that is not a car. Computer mouse, like you said, home goods, medical equipment, furniture. So there's a lot of different categories you can find yourself designing. But I do like that you talked about money. So let's first start off with, how much did it cost you every year to go to the school that you're going to?
Oh, it's public. I don't need to pay for this.
It's free. So I guess the issue with having it be a free school is, what prevents an industrial designer from kind of slacking off, going slow? Do you find that there's students out there that just go really slow and maybe not try as hard because they're not actually paying for it?
Every semester, you sending your portfolios to different studios, to different workshops, and each semester you're just like sending your portfolio. They either accept you or not, and you have like exams and different tasks that you need to complete during the semester. If you don't, then they just like throwing you out.
You always have to make sure that you have quality work and that you're doing your work on time. And you're constantly getting judged by these different studios in order to be able to pass and continue on with your education. And when you enter to the 2-year master's degree, is that also free, paid for?
Yes, it's also for free. Like, you need to go through the exam process, but it's for free.
Tell me about when you graduate, say you land your first job as an industrial designer in Poland. How much have you heard of any numbers salary wise, how much you would expect to get paid?
Yes, I heard. Per hour, they would pay us around like 20, 30 złotych. And in euros, it's probably no more than 10 euros per hour.
Yeah, that's not a lot of money. So I did the conversion. 10 euros is about $11, 11.28 during the time of this recording. So in some areas in America, that's like lower than minimum wage. Like you would probably just work at McDonald's and get paid more. How does that feel to you, just getting paid that much as an industrial designer? Because I know you said architecture, they don't pay well too, but it sounds like industrial design over at Poland doesn't pay well.
That's one of the reasons why I don't want to like stay in Poland, the money.
So let's just say ideally you land your first job, it's a dream job. How much would you want to get paid?
So I feel like if somebody gave me like 30 złotych, so like 30 złotych, so the 10 euros, I would be happy. I would be just in general happy to have a job, if that's like possible in the future.
All right, so before we actually jump into your portfolio, take a look at your work. How do you feel about it? Do you feel confident about it? Are you happy with the quality of the level of the portfolio you're at?
I feel like there's like room for improvement, and I just need to hear it. I just need to hear what to improve.
And as far as all the different skills, sketching, CAD modeling, rendering, research, what aspect of industrial design do you feel like you struggle the most with?
So at my uni, I have a problem that we focus most of the time on research, and we have maybe like 3 or 2 weeks to 3D model something. And I'm struggling with 3D modeling in CAD because I have organic shapes in my portfolio, and it's hard to get them. So for example, the drone projects that I have is the most recent one. I started modeling this in SolidWorks, but then my tutor told me that we don't have time for this, and so I modeled this in Blender.
Speaking about CAD programs, it sounds like they taught you SolidWorks. Did they also teach you Blender?
No. So on the first semester of second year, we start with Rhino. Then the second semester of second year, we have Fusion, and then third year is just mostly SolidWorks.
In America, or in the school at least that I went to, they only taught us SolidWorks because that's the idea is that that's the industry standard. That's what all the industrial designers use, and that's also what generally mechanical engineers use. So if you use the same program as mechanical engineers and as all the other industrial designers, you can work seamlessly. Mm-hmm. But of course, not everybody uses SolidWorks, and there's limitations to SolidWorks, and so that's why people gravitate to Fusion 360 or Rhino, or maybe even something like Blender, like what you did. But typically, those programs are learned on your own. You just have a deep passion for CAD modeling, and you think that it's better than SolidWorks, and so you kind of just learn that stuff on your own. But that's actually pretty cool to hear that your school, every year they taught you a different 3D program. I guess the pros and cons of that is that you never really have a true depth in that one specific program, but you do have a broad understanding of how each program does work.
For example, Fusion, if you know Fusion, then SolidWorks is it's just like similar to Fusion.
And how about rendering? What programs are they teaching you guys?
Rendering, so if it's about like 2D, we had a class where we learned how to draw perspective, and we would render with pro markers and dry pastels, and then we would also render the sketches in Photoshop with layer masks. But if it's about the 3D, they don't really teach us how to render.
So you're using Blender to create some of those renders on your portfolio that we're about to look at?
Yes.
Interesting. So no Keyshot?
No. What is
Have you ever heard of Keyshot?
no?
Okay, I guess
I
not.
mean, like your students that you reviewed on your videos, they were talking about the keyshot, but I was like, okay, keyshot. What is keyshot?
Everybody that I've asked, not only just on Portfolio Pinup, but just in general, they always typically use Keyshot. So Keyshot is, to explain it in the most basic terms, it's its own separate program. So normally what I found is that there's like these built-in rendering systems that you can install into Rhino or Blender or Cinema 4D, things like Redshift. Keyshot is its own separate program, and it's usually able to accept almost every format of 3D that these other 3D programs, these CAD programs produce. So I can make a native file in SolidWorks and I could directly import that into Keyshot. It'll accept it. So it's very flexible in that way, where it could accept all these different formats from all these different CAD programs. It's very simple. So once you import your model, they actually have all of these materials all laid out for you. Everything is made. So there's a list. You just click on metal. It'll show you all the different type of metals, gold, aluminum, steel, on all these different colors. Plastic, textured, translucent, cloudy, glossy. It has all of those, and then it has cloth and all of these different materials that you could possibly think of. And all you do is you click on that material and you drag it over onto that specific part, and then it applies it to that part. It's actually very, very nice, and it makes rendering very easy. I would say after about 2 to 3 days, you would be able to get a good sense of how that program works. It's a very easy rendering program. Of course, it takes a little bit more to really master it and produce some really nice, beautiful, crispy renders. But to just get started, it's actually very, very simple. So what I've tried using other render programs, and you have to make each texture and each material on your own, every single time. And so, of course, you could save the preset and stuff like that. But with Keyshot, if you just want to render out something very fast, that's what it's really good for. Okay, cool. Let's jump into your portfolio. Looking at your projects, I see this drone. Vehicle looks kind of like an ATV-like thing. This looks like maybe packaging or graphics, home goods, kitchen appliance type deal, transportation steering wheel. I have no idea what this is. I can click it and look at it, but immediately right away it doesn't scream what it is. Just looking at this picture here, I don't really know what it is, but then of course it says axe concept. It's no axe that I've seen before, so that's pretty interesting, very organic. So right away, to me, I think the two main projects that stand out the most is the steering wheel. I think that looks pretty cool. This vehicle also looks pretty cool. And then the drone looks nice. It seems like your portfolio, it's all on the right side, and then you still have this kind of directory on the left. I would really like it for it to fill up the whole page and just for me to see the whole thing. It looks like I can click on it and it just zooms in to this whole giant JPEG in a way. And if I zoom in, it just kind of like zooms in way too much. So I don't really get a full nice experience when I view your portfolio. Right away, it looks like it opens up with a bunch of research, some pictures that you took off the internet, a lot of words. You want to open up with something that somebody could really sink their teeth in, something that really gets them excited and inspired. I want to see some of these renders here, which are really nice actually. Move those up to the top. Fill the whole slide up with just one of these really nice renders, and show me all three of these. For an opening shot, to tell me what the product is, it would be nice to have a background and then the vehicle. And try not to have the background be so overwhelming to where it overpowers your design. When I'm just looking at this, I really don't want to read all of this. These just look like images that you took off the internet, and the graphics, they look okay. They don't look bad, but they also don't look amazing. So right now, I would immediately probably just be scrolling until I get to this page. Sketches look good. I think you laid it out pretty decently. You have words, and then below that you have some images with a graphical box, and then below that you have your sketches. So I think that it'll be good to separate some of these elements. I really just want to look at your sketches, but because I think you do have some really nice sketches. These are good exploration sketches, and I think you have a good sense of perspective and form. Your sketches don't look overdone. They look just very light, like as if you were trying to explore your design. So just seeing some of these sketches on their own without a lot of these extra stuff, or just maybe relay it out in a different way. And I could kind of understand what you're trying to do. You're probably doing research, and then you show some sketches based on that research, some exploration, and then you do some very rough mock-ups with cardboard and, a vehicle that you probably already have. Do some more sketches, refining that even further, and then you kind of get it. So I do understand what you're getting at. I think that this is just not a good type of a layout to present it. Cool, and then it looks like you have a rough CAD model, black and white, nice. Shows how the human would sit in it. So you're really thinking about proportions, sizing, scale. That's very important when you are actually building something. This is good work. Some of these images here could be better. So you just see that jaggedness, just stuff like this, like the jaggedness around the wheel. Typically stuff like this, you want to make sure to keep it as minimal as possible and just try to clean it up to make it look nice. I think these callouts are just a little bit too big. So this one here, there's just a lot of white space around the words. And so I think this green is very overpowering too. And so right now when I'm looking at this image here, it looks very light and it gets overpowered by all of these bubbles with the green. These renders are really nice. You're very good when it comes to proportion. You have a good sense of aesthetic. Surfaces, lines, continuous design looks very nice. There's nothing weird as far as what I can see with the surfaces. That could be because you said you used Blender. And I think Blender is really good for that because normally when you try to build something like this in SolidWorks, it takes a significant amount of time to build something like this and make sure all of the surfaces are continuous and flowing the way that it should and not having these weird creases. Normally, I would expect to see stuff like that in a student portfolio, especially their third year. And then it kind of ends. So since it is very short, I would really break up a lot of these renders here. So don't just show me this kind of like 3 thing and then this is all I see and you call it a day. Really break it up and extend your portfolio just out a little more. Show me just this render here. As I scroll down, I'll see this rear view. As I continue to scroll, I'll see this side view. And I don't know, maybe give me a couple more, some detail shots. Zoom up to this light here, zoom up to certain parts, the wheel. And just show me all the little different nuances and mechanical features that you did apply to this, because I do see that you do have a lot of details and they're really nice. Okay, let's take a look at this steering wheel real quick. And it opens up with a lot of research. Some nice sketches here. You're exploring some rough sketches, some more refined sketches with some surfacing on it. Nice. Very automotive, great Photoshop render. It's like not overpowering and not too real. And it's very kind of just light and simple, trying to just show off a quick idea of what could it potentially look like. It is kind of interesting to me how the right side is different than the left side, so I'm wondering why that is. Ergonomic study, cool. This is nice. Okay, so this I think this is a good shot kind of telling me why it's asymmetrical. So I think a shot like this actually would be beneficial to move up here first. And there's no real reason to show 2 different views of it. So this one and this one, they're pretty much the same thing. And so just have these hands in like this and maybe a little call out, just that line with the little circle on it. And then just tell me why does this side kind of look different than the left side? Maybe it could just say like control unit. Oh, this clay model looks huge. It looks really big compared to your hands. It could just be because it's very thick. All the different parts are just very, very chunky and very thick. I also run into the same issue where sometimes clay models, they kind of just look ugly. What I normally do is I just either Photoshop it for it to be black and white. Like I used to use this skin color clay, so it looked very weird. It looked like human skin. And then just this type of automotive clay that you're using here, it just looks brown and ugly and it doesn't look nice. So if you can make this image black and white, just clean it up just a little bit too. I think it'll make it look just a little more pleasing. And then you have this render here, maybe fade off the background. Right now the background looks very saturated. It looks very strong and big and saturated and high contrast. And so what you really want to do is show that it's there, that this is the environment that the car is going to be used in. But it's not so overpowering like here. So, fade it off, lower the saturation. The quality is also very bad. I know that you blurred it, but I also can see that it's just very pixelated. Like it looks like a blurred, pixelated image. It gets very fuzzy on this edge here. I know what you're trying to do. You're probably trying to just make it look like there's like depth of field to it, but I think this is probably not the way to go about it. It looks kind of jaggedy too. And so I would really look into some of these details here. This also looks like your render. It doesn't look like a CAD model, which is fine too, but everything else looks CAD. This vehicle here looks CAD. The helmet looks very real. And then all of a sudden I see the steering wheel, which looks very Photoshoppy, and then the background, which is very photography. So there's like all these little elements all over the place. And then that's it. So your portfolio so far are very short. It has all the elements, it has the research, it has the Photoshop, the sketches, the prototyping, and then a render. I would like to see more of the steering wheel, kind of give me couple different angles. I see the front view, and then I see kind of like this side slightly view. Just give me a little bit more zoomed in shot. I would CAD it if I were you. Build it in Blender, make some renders from it, and then really figure out how these details work. Because right now, when I see this, I see a general rough understanding of the design, but I don't really see a strong finished design, with how exactly these surfaces meet and the transitions between them. There's like this kink out, like this V shape right here, but then the screen is a regular rectangle. So I wonder why it's a V shape cutout. Just give me some transitions, screw holes, different materials. What texture is this black material? Is it like a Alcantara? Is it leather? Just when you start rendering it, building it out in CAD, throwing it into Keyshot or Blender or however you're rendering it, these are the things that you should really focus on. Okay, the very last one I'm going to look at is the drone. So I did take a look at this drone initially before we started the call. I think this drone is very cool, and there's some things that I really do like about it. I think this shot is perfect. This is exactly what I was talking about. You open up with the product taking up a lot of the real estate of the page. You placed it in a background that tells a story of where this drone is going to be used. You have the user in the background. You blurred the background out so that it gives more focus to your actual design. So it really looks very good. I think that this shot here is very successful. What I would do is I would probably just lower the saturation of the background just a little bit. The image that you used, it does still look low quality. I know that you blurred it, but it still looks like a blurred, low quality image. You could definitely tell. Lots of words, way, way, way too many words. It's all kind of this whole giant block. There's no bold words that are bigger than others. There's no title. There's no indentation. I would really reduce this down or reformat it in a way where it looks a lot more pleasant and a lot more easily to consume. Yeah, so just these chunks of words that you have here, it's just too much words. Really simplify it down to 2 lines maximum. You have this line and that line. If you can, really simplify it down to just a few words would be ideal. I think with these images here, they look fine. I would lower the saturation because sometimes just like all these different colors and pictures and stuff, they get overwhelming. So you just want to like low-key settle them down. So all of these images, they have a strong border. This blue image, they have a strong border. And then so what happens when you butt them up together is you see this little white triangular sliver here, and then one here. Since you do have a white background, it does have this triangle sliver. So just make sure to push that out. I see sketches, but these sketches kind of look all the same. It kind of just looks like you have your design figured out already. I don't see a lot of exploration type sketches. I don't know what this looks like to you, but 2 circles and a long piece, it just looks like a very obvious male anatomy type piece, especially since you have anatomy here, and then it kind of looks like the male anatomy on all of these, and it's all of these different angles too. So I think that's something to consider when you are showing this off here. Maybe you want to revisit it. Okay, and then it shows the proportions. I don't think you really need to dimension the man. Normally, people kind of have a rough understanding of how big people are. This guy could be either 5'5" to anywhere around 6 foot tall. So it's just more of this type of a shot here is really just to kind of give you an understanding of how big the product is. Okay, and then some renders, some callouts. Just show me the actual design itself before you start showing me all of these pieces here. So just give me this render, boom, right there. Maybe give me a couple different angles, and then later as I continue to scroll, I will see things like this where it is showing the camera, some of the vent holes, whatever thing that this thing is. I really do like how you did these callouts. See how thin this line is, and then this line, and then the little circle like call out is there, but it's not so bold and overwhelming. You know, I think this is actually perfect. So as far as the design goes, surfacing looks very nice. There's no weird tangency issues, creases. I think everything flows very nicely, but at the same time, I think it's lacking a lot of detail. And typically when you have things that are very smooth, you want to really break some of the surfaces with some sharp lines, you know, like maybe this bubble here, it did have some sort of a sharp line that ran down the center, you know, so there's a kind of a flatter spot on the top, and then it kind of smooth and be organic. Just something that gives it more of a stronger crease, a hard line that flows in and then flows out, very automotive like. I can definitely see some nice organic surfaces, but at the same time it also looks very blobby. The top looks like this painted surface, and then the bottom also, a lot of this real estate here is filled up with this painted surface. So right now I don't see there's a major opening in this where all the different internals, the camera assembly, the PCB, the battery, all of those things have to be inside of this product. And so normally there would be some sort of a part line that divides the top shell from the bottom shell so that it can be accessed. Maybe there's some screws. So I think that's what you're missing here. It just kind of looks like one giant single piece. And this shot here is not quite as successful as the first one. Why? Because the drone is just way too small. So right now I'm looking at the guy, I'm looking at the car, I'm looking at all this whole giant kind of ugly landscaping here, but the drone is like this little tiny thing here. This is better. I think I would also try to make it a little bit bigger. This shot is acting a little bit weird. I would really fade the guy off. You know, he looks very low quality. Background looks low quality. I don't like this bubble, how it comes off like this. And the laptop looks way too big. The UI of this looks off too. You know, like we don't really need to see all these freaking icons. Like look at his freaking desktop. It's crazy. Well, I took a screenshot of that angle that I showed right there. And this is kind of what I mean when I say add just a little bit more detail. And it really just adds to the drama of your design. So what I did here was I broke up the top shell with the bottom shell, really showing an understanding that you understand how this thing comes together. I did add some screw holes too, just to place it there. I think it visually shows that you understand that things need screws for it to come together, and it also adds to that visual drama of your design. So what I did was I added some kind of a matte black plastic piece that's unfinished. And it makes sense because this is going to be on the underside of the drone. So it's going to be taking some damage when you land the product. You know, there's going to be a lot of things that hit the underside. And so it's just showing a more rugged aspect of the product rather than it just having this nice, clean finish, high gloss, painted type of finish everywhere. I think if I had more time, I would try out different ways to really break up some of these panels and surfaces. I added, just very little details, just like this vent here. These are the little things. If you look at products, they have these things that you just need when you're really thinking about what is inside of a product. There's batteries, there's fans, there's PCBs, there's buttons, switches, screens and covers, and all of these things. They're all in these real everyday products that we have, especially consumer electronics products. These are the things that you really should consider and then and put into your product design. So another thing I think what was missing too is when this drone lands, where is it going to actually land? Because at the moment, this is a very curved type of round surface. So it's just going to scuff up the center part right here. So these bars here kind of could just be like a landing structure for the drone. It's I think what would look really cool is if you blurred out some of these propellers and just make it look like they were spinning. I tried to do it really quickly here. I just duplicated what propellers that you had here, rotated a little bit, and then blurred them a little bit. So it kind of makes it look like there's an effect with blurring, and it just makes it add to that drama and that render. This camera here is fixed at one single angle, so it would be really good to have it either move around. Maybe it's on like a pivoting joint, you know, or it's on a ball joint, or it's on, you know, something like a DJI drone where there's like a gimbal to it. So I think if you did add something like that, it'll add to the mechanical understanding of you understand how mechanics work, how things move and tilt, because I think that's kind of a little bit what's lacking in your portfolio is you have good sense of form and aesthetics, but then it doesn't, so far I haven't seen much movement, how things separate, reconfigure, come together. The mechanical engineering, the mechanical aspect of it, I think is what you're missing. And so really just thinking about some of these details instead of just plopping a camera on the surface and have it be fixed at a single angle. Out of an S tier, an A tier, a B tier, or a C tier, D and F, which I don't think it is. S being absolutely incredible. You are well above and beyond to be able to land a job. A tier being very good. Everything looks very good. It might not be the best of the best, but it's very good and still able to land a job. B, it's good. You'd be able to land a job if you network and get lucky and you're an awesome person and people like being around you. Your work might not be quite good, but it's still good. It's for sure good. C tier, it needs a little of improvement. You might be able to land an internship, but maybe not a full-time job. I think your portfolio, it's a very weird one for me to grade, but I would give it a C. Not to say that it's bad, but I think there's a lot to improve. I think you're actually a really good designer, and if you could just fine-tune some of those things that I mentioned in your portfolio, I think it could really get up to a B level. Yo designers, hope you enjoyed that episode of Portfolio Pinup. I want to keep this going, so if you want to be able to be on the next episode of Portfolio Pinup, get feedback from me, go ahead and shoot me an email. The link should be down below in the description. I'd really love to hear from you, so have your portfolio ready and we could figure out the details from there. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.